In the small town of Oak Ridge, where everyone knew each other by name, lived a 17-year-old girl named Lily. Unlike other teenagers in her town, Lily had been blind since she was 3 years old. A rare genetic condition had slowly taken her sight, leaving her world dark except for the faintest shadows and occasional bursts of light. But Lily never saw this as something that made her life less than others. In fact, her other senses had grown stronger over the years, especially her hearing. The moment Lily's fingers touched piano keys for the first time at age 5, something magical happened. The piano became her window to a world full of colors and feelings she couldn't see but could definitely feel. Her parents had noticed how she would stop and listen whenever music played, so they bought a second-hand upright piano and arranged lessons for her. 12 years later, that old piano remained in the corner of their modest living room. Its wood was scratched in places, and some keys had yellowed with age, but to Lily it was perfect. Every afternoon after school, she would sit at that piano and play for hours, losing herself in the music that flowed from her fingertips. Mrs. Wilson, Lily's piano teacher for the past decade, often said that Lily didn't just play music, she lived it. The elderly teacher had taught many students throughout her 40-year career, but none quite like Lily. There was something special about the way Lily interpreted each piece, bringing emotions to the surface that weren't always written in the notes. "Your playing has soul," Mrs. Wilson would tell her. "That's something that can't be taught." On a crisp autumn Tuesday, Lily finished her regular lesson with Mrs. Wilson. The air outside had that special fall smell, a mix of drying leaves, distant fires, and the promise of winter. Lily had just finished playing a piece by Chopin that she'd been practicing for weeks. "That was beautiful," Mrs. Wilson said, her voice warm with pride. "You've really captured the essence of what Chopin was trying to express." There was a pause, and Lily could hear the sound of papers rustling. "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about something important." Lily turned her face toward her teacher's voice. "What is it?" Mrs. Wilson took a deep breath. "The Young Musicians International competition is being held in our region this year. It happens every 3 years, and this is the first time it's coming anywhere near Oak Ridge. It's just 2 hours away in the city." The international competition? Lily's fingers stilled on the keys. Everyone in the music world knew about this competition. Winners often went on to perform with major orchestras and launch real careers. "Isn't that for, the best of the best?" "Yes," Mrs. Wilson said simply. "And I think you should enter." Lily laughed nervously. "But I'm just a small-town girl. And She didn't finish the sentence. "Blind?" Mrs. Wilson completed it for her. "Lily, when you play, nobody thinks about that. They just hear the music. And your music deserves to be heard by more people than just me and your parents." Lily's heart beat faster. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. She had never performed outside of local recitals and the occasional community event. The international competition would have contestants from all over the world, people who had probably been training at prestigious music schools their whole lives. "I don't know," Lily said quietly. "Those people have been preparing for years. So have you," Mrs. Wilson pointed out. 12 years of dedication. That piano has more of your tears, laughter, and hard work in it than most people put into anything in their entire lives." Lily ran her fingers lightly over the keys, not pressing down enough to make a sound. The familiar smooth ivory and ebony under her fingertips felt like home. "The applications are due next week," Mrs. Wilson continued. "I've already downloaded the form. All we need to do is record you playing your audition pieces and submit them with the application. They'll announce the selected participants 3 weeks later. Do you really think I have a chance?" Lily asked, her voice small. Mrs. Wilson placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't. Music isn't about what you can see, it's about what you can feel and what you can make others feel. And in that department, you have a rare gift." That evening at dinner, Lily told her parents about Mrs. Wilson's suggestion. The clinking of forks against plates paused as they listened. "The international competition?" her mother repeated, her voice a mixture of pride and concern. "That's a big deal." "It would mean a lot of extra practice," her father added. "And we'd need to figure out transportation and accommodations in the city." "I know it's asking a lot," Lily said, pushing her food around her plate. "And maybe it's silly to even think about it." "Silly?" Her father's voice was firm. "There's nothing silly about going after something you love. If Mrs. Wilson thinks you're ready, then I trust her judgment. She doesn't give praise lightly." Her mother reached across the table and found Lily's hand. "We've always told you that your blindness shouldn't stop you from chasing your dreams. If this is something you want to try, we're behind you 100%. Lily squeezed her mother's hand, a lump forming in her throat. "I think I do want to try. Even if I don't make it past the first round, at least I'll know I had the courage to put myself out there." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Lily had to choose her audition pieces carefully, one classical and one of her choice. For her classical piece, she selected Bach's Prelude in C major. For her personal choice, she decided on a piece she had composed herself, inspired by her journey with music. The day they recorded her audition, Lily felt her hands trembling as she sat at the piano in the community center, which had better acoustics than her living room. Mrs. Wilson had arranged for a friend with professional recording equipment to capture Lily's performance. "Just play like you always do," Mrs. Wilson advised. "Forget about the recording, forget about the competition. Just be one with the music." Lily took a deep breath, centering herself. As her fingers touched the keys, the familiar calm washed over her. The world narrowed down to just her and the piano, just as it always did. She played the Bach piece first, letting the structured, mathematical beauty of it flow through her fingers. Then came her own composition, more emotional and raw, telling the story of a girl who found light through sound. When she finished, there was silence, then the sound of sniffling. "Was it okay?" Lily asked, suddenly anxious. "Okay?" The recording technician's voice was thick with emotion. "Young lady, that was extraordinary. I've recorded hundreds of musicians, and I've rarely heard playing with that much heart." The next week was the longest of Lily's life. After submitting her application and recordings, all she could do was wait. She practiced more than ever, not wanting to lose momentum regardless of the outcome. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Mrs. Wilson called. Lily's mother handed her the phone, her voice tight with anticipation. "Hello?" Lily said. "They just posted the list of selected participants," Mrs. Wilson said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Lily, you're in. You've been accepted to compete in the Young Musicians International competition." Lily's hand flew to her mouth as tears sprang to her eyes. "Really? Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure. Your name is right there on the list. Out of over 500 applicants, they only chose 50 to participate in the preliminary round. And you're one of them." The news spread quickly through Oak Ridge. The local newspaper ran a story about Lily, the blind pianist who would represent their town at the international competition. Neighbors and even people she barely knew stopped her parents in the grocery store to wish them well. As the competition drew nearer, Lily learned more about the other contestants. There were young pianists coming from as far away as Japan, Russia, and Brazil. Many had been playing in major venues since they were children. One name in particular kept coming up in music circles: Tom Harrington, a 19-year-old prodigy from New York who had already performed with 3 major symphony orchestras and was considered the favorite to win. "Don't let that intimidate you," Mrs. Wilson advised when she sensed Lily growing nervous. "Everyone puts their fingers on the same keys. The piano doesn't care about your resume." The night before they were set to leave for the city, Lily sat alone at her piano, running her fingers over the keys without playing, memorizing once again the feeling of her faithful companion. "We're going on an adventure," she whispered to the piano, "and whatever happens, we'll come back home having tried our best." Somewhere deep inside, beneath the nerves and excitement, Lily felt a quiet confidence growing. Music had always been her way of connecting with a world she couldn't see. Now she would share that connection with people who might not understand what it meant to live in darkness, but might just understand what it meant to find light within it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, in the quiet of her familiar room, with the piano beneath her fingertips, Lily was ready to take the first step toward her dreams. The 2-hour drive to the city felt like crossing into another world for Lily. The car hummed beneath her, and she could sense the changes as they left their small town behind. The roads got wider, the traffic thicker, the sounds more varied and loud. Her father described landmarks they passed, painting pictures with his words, but Lily was lost in her thoughts, fingers tapping out piano pieces on her knees. "We're almost there," her mother said from the front seat. "The competition hall is just ahead." The International Music Center was an architectural marvel, according to Mrs. Wilson, who had looked up pictures online. Glass and steel shaped like waves of music, she had told Lily. It's supposed to be one of the finest acoustic spaces in the country. As they pulled into the parking lot, Lily's stomach twisted with nerves. This wasn't like performing at the community center back home where everyone knew her. Here she was just another contestant, and an unusual one at that. Ready? Her father asked, turning off the engine. Lily nodded, gripping her folded white cane. As ready as I'll ever be. The air outside was different from home. Less fresh, more filled with exhaust and the scent of too many people in one place. The sounds were overwhelming at first. Car doors slamming. Voices calling out in different languages. The distant wail of city sirens, and underneath it all, the faint sound of someone practicing scales on a piano, drifting from an open window. Mrs. Wilson had arrived earlier to register Lily and get oriented. She met them at the entrance, her familiar perfume, something like lavender and old books, cutting through the chaos. There you are. Mrs. Wilson's voice was bright with excitement. I've got your contestant badge and schedule. The orientation meeting starts in 30 minutes. And then you'll have access to the practice. Rooms until dinner. The inside of the music center smelled of polished wood and something Lily couldn't quite place, maybe the lingering scent of countless performances that had taken place within these walls. Her cane tapped against the marble floor as they made their way to the main hall. There are 50 contestants here from 17 countries, Mrs. Wilson explained. The preliminary round is tomorrow. Each person plays for 15 minutes and they'll eliminate half the field. Lily swallowed hard. Half? Don't think about that now, her mother said gently. Just focus on doing your best. The orientation meeting was held in a reception hall. Lily sat between her parents, listening as the competition director welcomed everyone and explained the rules and schedule. The room buzzed with whispered conversations in various languages and the nervous energy of 50 young musicians all hoping for the same prize. And remember, the director concluded, while this is a competition, it's also a celebration of music. You're all exceptionally talented or you wouldn't be here. Enjoy this opportunity to learn from each other. After the meeting, Lily's parents went to check into their hotel while Mrs. Wilson took her to find a practice room. The hallways were crowded with contestants and their teachers, everyone trying to secure space before the limited practice time ran out. Most of the small practice rooms are taken, Mrs. Wilson muttered, guiding Lily down another corridor. Let's try the east wing. They turned a corner and Lily's cane hit something. No, someone. There was a sharp intake of breath followed by an irritated male voice. Watch where you're going. I'm sorry, Lily said automatically, pulling her cane back. I didn't hear you there. There was a pause and then a laugh that wasn't kind. You didn't hear me? Maybe you should use your eyes instead of that stick. Lily felt her cheeks burn. Before she could respond, Mrs. Wilson stepped forward. She can't use her eyes, young man. Lily is blind. Another pause, then the rustle of clothing as if the person had moved closer to look at her. You're competing? The voice was incredulous now. In the piano competition? Yes, Lily said, lifting her chin. I'm a pianist. He laughed again, louder this time. How does that work? You can't even see the keys. Others had stopped in the hallway, drawn by the confrontation. Lily could feel their attention like a physical weight. I don't need to see the keys, she said quietly. I feel them. Well, that's quaint. The voice dripped with condescension. I suppose they let all sorts in these preliminary rounds. Makes the rest of us look better, I guess. Mrs. Wilson's hand tightened on Lily's arm. And you are? Tom Harrington. The name was delivered like it should mean something to them. And it did. Lily recognized it immediately as the prodigy everyone had been talking about. I'm sure you've heard of me. We have, Mrs. Wilson said coolly. Your reputation precedes you, though perhaps not in the way you imagine, Tom snorted. Look, no offense, but this is a serious competition. It takes years of training at top conservatories, working with the best teachers, watching the techniques of master pianists. You can't just feel your way through it. Murmurs rippled through the growing crowd. Lily stood frozen, humiliation washing over her in hot waves. That's enough. A new voice cut in, female, authoritative, with a slight accent Lily couldn't place. Mr. Harrington, I believe you have a practice session scheduled in room 4. I suggest you make use of it. Professor Rivera, Tom said, his tone instantly shifting to respectful. I was just explaining the realities of the competition to— I heard what you were explaining, the woman said. And as one of the judges, I can assure you that we evaluate the music, not the musician's circumstances. Now please proceed to your practice room. There was a moment of tense silence, then footsteps moving away. The crowd began to disperse, conversation resuming in hushed tones. "Thank you," Mrs. Wilson said to the woman who had intervened. "Isabella Rivera." The woman introduced herself. "I teach at the National Conservatory, and you must be Lily Chen. I reviewed your audition recording." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "You did?" "Indeed. Your Bach was technically solid, but it was your original composition that caught our attention. There was something authentic about it." Professor Rivera's voice moved closer. "Don't let people like Tom Harrington discourage you. He has talent, certainly, but talent without humanity is like a beautiful vase with nothing inside." After Professor Rivera left, Mrs. Wilson found them an empty practice room. It was small but had a decent grand piano. Lily ran her hands over it, getting acquainted with its feel. "Are you okay?" Mrs. Wilson asked once they were alone. "What that boy said was cruel." Lily sat at the piano bench, her fingers hovering over the keys. "He's not entirely wrong, though, is he? I haven't trained at a conservatory. I can't watch other pianists' techniques. Maybe I don't belong here." Mrs. Wilson sat beside her on the bench. "Music isn't just about what you can see. It's about what you can hear, what you can feel, what you understand about emotion and expression. Those things don't require sight. But technically, you play beautifully," Mrs. Wilson interrupted. "But technique alone doesn't move people. You know who was also blind? Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder. They seem to have done all right without seeing the keys." Lily smiled despite herself. "This isn't exactly jazz or pop. The principle is the same. Music transcends the physical senses. It speaks directly to the heart." Mrs. Wilson placed her hand on Lily's shoulder. "Now, are you going to let some arrogant boy who's probably never faced a real challenge in his life stop you from sharing your gift?" Taking a deep breath, Lily straightened her back and placed her fingers on the keys. "No, I'm not." She began to play her competition pieces, losing herself in the music as she always did. The unfamiliar piano soon became an extension of herself, responding to her touch, telling her story. Outside the practice room, people passing in the hallway slowed to listen, drawn by something in her playing they couldn't quite name. When she finished, Mrs. Wilson was quiet for a long moment. "What?" Lily asked. "I was just thinking," Mrs. Wilson said thoughtfully, "that Tom Harrington might be in for quite a surprise tomorrow." That evening, back at the hotel, Lily sat with her parents at dinner, telling them about the encounter with Tom. Her father was indignant, her mother worried, but Lily found that the humiliation had faded, replaced by a quiet determination. "I don't need him to believe in me," she told her parents. "I just need to believe in myself." Later, lying in the unfamiliar hotel bed, Lily thought about all the hours she had spent at her old piano back home. All the times her fingers had stumbled over difficult passages. All the frustration, all the moments of breakthrough. Music had been her companion through the darkness, her way of expressing what words couldn't capture. Tomorrow she would share that with the judges, with the audience, with anyone who cared to truly listen. And as for Tom Harrington, well, perhaps he would listen too, or perhaps he wouldn't. Either way, Lily would play her heart out, not to prove him wrong, but to prove to herself that she belonged on that stage as much as anyone else. With that thought, she drifted off to sleep, piano melodies dancing through her dreams, preparing her for what lay ahead. Morning arrived with a chorus of unfamiliar sounds, distant traffic, the hum of the hotel's air conditioning, and the muffled conversations of other guests in the hallway. Lily woke before her alarm, her stomach tight with nerves. Today was the preliminary round. She showered and dressed carefully in the outfit her mother had helped her choose, a simple dark blue dress that felt both comfortable and appropriate for a performance. As she brushed her hair, she could hear her parents moving around the adjoining room, their voices low and encouraging. "Did you sleep okay?" her mother asked when Lily joined them for breakfast. "A little," Lily admitted, picking at a piece of toast. "I kept dreaming I was on stage and couldn't remember how to play." Her father chuckled. "Classic performance anxiety. I still get that before big presentations at work, and I've been doing them for 20 years. What if Tom is right?" Lily asked suddenly. "What if I don't belong here?" Her parents exchanged a glance she couldn't see. "Honey," her father said, his voice firm but gentle, That boy doesn't know the first thing about belonging. People like him think belonging is about fitting some narrow definition of what's normal or expected. But real belonging isn't about being the same as everyone else. It's about bringing your unique gifts to the table. Lily nodded, though the knot in her stomach remained. I'm number 37 in the performance order, she said. Tom is number 12. Good, her mother said. That means you'll get to hear most of the other competitors before your turn. And we'll be there the whole time. Mrs. Wilson met them in the hotel lobby, radiating her usual calm confidence. Ready for the big day? She asked, giving Lily's shoulder a squeeze. As ready as I'll ever be, Lily replied, gripping her cane. The competition hall was already buzzing with activity when they arrived. Contestants and their families and teachers clustered in small groups, speaking in hushed, nervous tones. The air felt charged with anticipation and anxiety. Mrs. Wilson guided Lily to the designated waiting area for performers. I'll be right in the front row with your parents, she promised. Just play like you do at home, like it's just you and the piano having a conversation. The preliminaries began promptly at 9. Lily sat with the other contestants, listening as names were called and performances began. Each pianist had 15 minutes to showcase their skills with pieces of their choosing. The level of talent was intimidating, clean, precise playing that spoke of years of rigorous training. When Tom Harrington's name was called, a ripple of anticipation went through the audience. Lily could sense the shift in energy, the way people sat up straighter and leaned forward. From the first notes, she understood why. Tom played with stunning technical precision. His fingers must have been flying across the keys. He began with a Chopin etude, the notes cascading like water. The piece was famously difficult, requiring both speed and delicacy, and Tom executed it flawlessly. He followed with a Rachmaninoff prelude that showcased his dramatic flair. The contrast between thundering bass notes and delicate melodic lines was striking. As he finished, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause, more than they had offered any previous. Contestant, remarkable technical control, whispered a girl sitting next to Lily. They say he practices 8 hours a day. Lily's heart sank. How could she possibly compete with that? Tom's playing was like a perfectly engineered machine. Every note exactly where it should be, every dynamic shift precisely calibrated. More contestants followed, each impressive in their own right. Some played with technical brilliance like Tom, while others brought more emotion to their performances. Lily listened intently, trying to gauge the judges' preferences from the audience reactions. Number 37. Lily Chen, the announcer finally called. Lily's legs felt wooden as she stood. Mrs. Wilson appeared at her side, guiding her to the stage and the waiting piano. The walk felt endless, each tap of her cane echoing in her heightened awareness. Break a leg, Mrs. Wilson whispered, helping her find the piano bench. The audience fell silent as Lily settled herself, adjusting the bench position by feel. She could sense hundreds of eyes on her, could almost hear the unspoken questions. What is a blind girl doing in this competition? She took a deep breath and placed her hands on the keys, finding her home position. The piano was a magnificent concert grand, its action responsive and its tone rich. For a moment, Lily simply let her fingers rest there, feeling the cool ivory beneath her fingertips, grounding herself in the familiar sensation. Then she began to play. She started with Bach's Prelude in C major, a piece known for its apparent simplicity but deep emotional resonance. Rather than racing through it as some did, Lily took her time, letting each chord progression breathe and speak. The piece had a mathematical perfection that had always appealed to her, a structure that felt like architecture made of sound. As she played, the nervous flutter in her stomach calmed. The audience, the judges, even Tom Harrington, all faded away until there was only Lily and the music having their familiar conversation. Her fingers moved with confidence born of countless hours of practice, finding each key precisely where she knew it would be. When the final notes of the Bach faded, there was a moment of silence, then a warm wave of applause. Without pausing to acknowledge it, Lily transitioned into her second piece, her own composition. The piece began softly, with a simple melody in the right hand that evoked questions, searching. The left hand provided a steady rhythm underneath, like footsteps on an uncertain path. As the piece progressed, the melody developed, gaining confidence. occasionally stumbling but always recovering. Lily poured everything into this performance, her experiences, her frustrations, her joys, her journey with music. The middle section became more complex with overlapping melodies that conversed with each other, building to a moment of tension before resolving into a passage of unexpected beauty. As she played the final section, Lily felt tears pricking at her eyes, but her fingers never faltered. The piece ended not with a dramatic flourish, but with a gentle resolution, like a question finally answered. The hall remained silent for several heartbeats after the final notes faded away. Then someone began to clap and someone else until the entire audience was applauding with genuine enthusiasm. Lily stood bowing in the direction of the applause, hoping she was facing the right way. As Mrs. Wilson guided her off the stage, Lily could hear whispers following her. That was her own composition. "Did you feel that middle section?" I had chills. I've never heard Bach played quite that way. Back in the waiting area, Mrs. Wilson hugged her tightly. "You were magnificent," she whispered. "Absolutely magnificent. Was it good enough?" Lily asked, still unsure. "It wasn't about being good enough," Mrs. Wilson said. "It was about being true. And you were completely true to yourself and the music." The remaining contestants performed, but Lily was too drained to listen carefully. The emotional release of her performance had left her feeling both empty and somehow fuller than before. When the last pianist finished, the competition director announced that the judges would deliberate and post the names of the 25 contestants advancing to the semifinals that evening. Everyone was encouraged to take a late lunch break and return at 3 o'clock. Outside the hall, Lily's parents engulfed her in hugs. "We are so proud of you," her mother said, her voice thick with emotion. "Whatever happens next, that was beautiful." As they made their way toward the exit, planning to find a quiet place for lunch, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Interesting performance." Lily stopped, recognizing Tom's voice immediately. "Thank you," she said carefully. "I mean, it was different," he continued. "Not very technical, but I suppose you work with what you have." Before Lily could respond, another voice joined the conversation. "Professor Rivera, Mr. Harrington, I believe I heard you practicing in room 4 again after lunch. Don't you want to join your fellow contestants for a meal?" "I was just leaving," Tom said. "Congratulations on your unique interpretation, Lily." His footsteps retreated quickly. "Don't mind him," Professor Rivera said. "He's threatened." "Threatened?" Lily's father asked. "By what?" "By anyone who reminds him that technical perfection isn't the only measure of musical excellence." Professor Rivera's voice softened. "Your daughter plays with something many trained musicians spend their entire lives seeking: authenticity." As they walked away, Lily felt a curious lightness. She had done her best, had shared her truth through music. Whether or not she advanced to the semifinals, no one could take that away from her. 3 o'clock came both too quickly and not quickly enough. The contestants gathered around the bulletin board where the advancing names were posted. Lily stood back, waiting for her parents to check the list. Her father's whoop of joy told her everything she needed to know. "You're in," he shouted, rushing back to hug her. "You made it to the semifinals!" And somewhere in the crowd, Lily heard a sharp intake of breath and what might have been a muttered curse. Tom Harrington had also seen the list, and clearly he was not pleased that Lily's name was on it. The semifinal round was scheduled for the next day, giving contestants time to rest and prepare. For Lily, making it past the preliminaries already felt like a victory. She had proven to herself, and perhaps to others, that she belonged in this competition. Back at the hotel that evening, Lily's parents insisted on a small celebration. They ordered room service and toasted with sparkling cider. "To our amazing daughter," her father said, his voice warm with pride, "who showed everyone today what real music sounds like." Lily smiled, though a familiar worry gnawed at her. "The semifinals will be harder. The judges might want more technical pieces." "Then you'll give them technical pieces," her mother said simply, "but you'll play them your way." After dinner, Mrs. Wilson stopped by to discuss strategy. "You've made quite an impression," she told Lily. "I overheard some audience members talking about the blind girl who plays like she has the music inside her." "Did you hear anything about Tom?" Lily asked, curious despite herself. Mrs. Wilson hesitated. "He's still the favorite to win. His technique is undeniably impressive. But not everyone connects with playing that's all precision and no heart. For the semi-final round, They decided Lily would perform a more technically challenging piece by Beethoven, followed again by her original composition, which had clearly resonated with the judges. "Get some sleep," Mrs. Wilson advised before leaving. "Tomorrow will be another big day." But sleep didn't come easily. Lily lay awake, replaying the day's events in her mind, thinking about the other contestants, especially Tom. What would it be like to play with such technical mastery, to never worry about hitting a wrong note? Yet something about his playing had felt hollow to her, like a beautiful house with no one living in it. The semifinals began at noon the next day. The 25 remaining contestants had been narrowed to a more manageable number, but the competition had grown fiercer. Each pianist now had 20 minutes to perform, allowing for more complex pieces. Lily was scheduled to perform 15th, with Tom just before her at 14th. This time she sat in the audience with her parents to listen to the early performers. The level of playing was even higher than the day before, with each musician bringing something special to their performance. When Tom's turn came, Lily could sense the anticipation rippling through the crowd. He had chosen a notoriously difficult Liszt piece, La Campanella, known for its lightning-fast notes and treacherous leaps across the keyboard. From the first notes, it was clear Tom was determined to showcase his technical prowess. His fingers flew across the keys with incredible speed and accuracy. The piece demands virtuosic skill, with rapid repeated notes and wide intervals that stretch the limits of human dexterity. Tom executed it all flawlessly. As he moved into his second piece, a Chopin ballade, Lily noted that while his technique remained impeccable, there was something missing, the emotional connection that makes music transcend mere notes on a page. The audience didn't seem to notice this absence. When Tom finished with a flourish, they erupted into enthusiastic applause, with a few people even standing. Contestant 15, Lily Chen, the announcer called as the applause died down. As Mrs. Wilson guided her to the stage, Lily could feel the weight of following such a technical tour de force. How could her more modest playing compare to Tom's pyrotechnics? "Just be you," Mrs. Wilson whispered before leaving her at the piano. Lily took a deep breath, centered herself, and began the Beethoven sonata she had chosen, Pathétique, with its dramatic opening chords and soulful melodies. Though not as technically showy as Liszt, it required emotional range and musical understanding. As she played, Lily poured her feelings into the music, the determination that had brought her here, the doubt she'd faced, the joy she found in the piano. Her fingers found each note with certainty, painting Beethoven's emotional landscape with genuine feeling. For her second piece, she again played her original composition, but with subtle differences from yesterday's performance. The music felt alive under her fingers, growing and changing with her emotions. When she finished, the applause felt different somehow, warmer, more personal than the impressed reaction Tom had received. As she bowed, she heard a voice call "Brava" from somewhere in the audience. The rest of the day passed in a blur of beautiful music as the remaining contestants performed. By late afternoon, everyone was mentally exhausted from listening so intently. The judges announced they would post the list of 5 finalists by 6 o'clock. Lily and her parents decided to get some fresh air while waiting. They found a quiet courtyard outside the music center, where the late afternoon sun warmed their faces. "However this turns out," her mother said, "you've already achieved something remarkable." Lily nodded, grateful for their unwavering support. "I'm just glad I tried. A month ago, I never would have believed I could make it this far." They returned to the music center at 5:45, joining the crowd of anxious contestants waiting for the results. The atmosphere was tense. Only 5 would advance, meaning 20 would see their journey end today. At precisely 6 o'clock, the competition director posted the list. There was a rush forward, followed by exclamations of joy and quiet sounds of disappointment. Lily waited with her parents' heart pounding. "Dad?" she asked when she heard him return from checking the list. There was a pause that made her stomach drop. "You're in," he said finally, his voice breaking. "You're a finalist, Lily." She hardly had time to process this news before a commotion nearby caught everyone's attention. "This is ridiculous," came Tom's voice, loud and angry. "How can someone who can't even see the sheet music advance over classically trained pianists?" "Mr. Harrington, please lower your voice," said the competition director. "The judges' decisions are final. Is this some kind of publicity stunt? Tom demanded. The blind girl makes a good story, is that it? Lily felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as whispers spread through the crowd. Despite her achievement, Tom's words brought back all her doubts. Ignore him, her father whispered. He's just upset because he knows you're a real threat. Mrs. Wilson and Professor Rivera approached through the crowd. Congratulations, Lily, Professor Rivera said warmly. Your Beethoven was exquisite. Thank you, Lily replied, then hesitated. Is Tom also a finalist? Yes, Professor Rivera said. All 5 finalists will perform tomorrow evening in the main concert hall. It will be broadcast live on the regional classical music station. As they discussed the details for tomorrow, Lily became aware of someone standing nearby, listening. A familiar cologne, expensive and slightly too strong, gave him away. Excuse me, she said to her group. I'll be right back. Using her cane, she moved carefully toward where Tom stood. Congratulations on making the finals, she said, extending her hand in his general direction. There was a pause before he took it briefly. You too, he said, his voice stiff. Your list was impressive, she offered. I could never play that fast. No. You couldn't, he agreed, then added reluctantly. But your Beethoven had something. They stood awkwardly for a moment. Why does this bother you so much? Lily finally asked. Me being in the competition? Tom was quiet so long that Lily thought he might have walked away. It's not fair, he finally said, his voice lower. I've worked my entire life for this. 8 hours of practice every day since I was 4. The best teachers, the best schools, everything planned and perfect. And I haven't worked? Lily asked gently. It's different, Tom insisted. You shouldn't be able to just feel your way through this. Music requires discipline, technique, years of study. It requires those things, Lily agreed. But it also requires heart. Music isn't just about playing the right notes at the right time. That's exactly what music is, Tom argued. But something in his voice had changed. A note of uncertainty. No, Lily said softly. The notes are just the beginning. Music is what happens in the space between the notes, in what you bring to them from inside yourself. Someone called Tom's name from across the room, probably his teacher or parents. I have to go, he said abruptly. See you tomorrow. Lily replied, You won't see anything. Tom shot back automatically, then stopped. I shouldn't have said that. It's okay, Lily said with a small smile. I won't see you, but I'll hear you. And sometimes hearing reveals more truth than seeing ever could. As Tom walked away, Lily sensed that something had shifted between them. Not friendship, certainly, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. Tomorrow would bring the final test. 5 pianists, 1 winner. Regardless of the outcome, Lily had already discovered something valuable. That her music could speak to others the way it had always spoken to her, bridging the darkness with sound. Connecting hearts across differences that seemed, on the surface, impossible to overcome. The morning of the final round dawned with a gentle rain tapping against the hotel window. Lily woke early, the soft patter a soothing backdrop to her thoughts. Tonight she would play in the grand concert hall before a full audience and a panel of distinguished judges. The very idea seemed impossible just weeks ago. She dressed slowly, focusing on the familiar routine to calm her nerves. Her parents had gone out to find fresh pastries for breakfast, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Lily stretched her fingers, feeling the muscles and tendons that had carried her this far. Whatever happens tonight, she whispered to herself, you've already won. The 5 finalists were given time slots to practice in the grand concert hall that morning. Lily's was at 11, giving her a chance to get familiar with the space and the piano she would play that evening. When Mrs. Wilson arrived to take her to the practice session, she brought unexpected news. Tom was looking for you earlier, she said as they walked through the hotel lobby. Tom? Lily couldn't hide her surprise. What did he want? He didn't say. Just asked where he might find you. The grand concert hall was enormous. Lily could feel it in the way sounds traveled through the space, in the slight echo that followed Mrs. Wilson's footsteps as they walked down the center aisle. It seats almost 2,000 people, Mrs. Wilson explained, and they're expecting a full house tonight. Lily's stomach tightened. 2,000 people listening to her play. Would they be comparing her to Tom? Wondering why a blind girl was on the same stage as a prodigy? The stage piano was a magnificent instrument, a 9-foot concert grand that Mrs. Wilson described as the Rolls-Royce of pianos. When Lily sat at the bench and placed her hands on the keys, she immediately understood what her teacher meant. The action was butter-smooth, the tone rich and resonant even in the softest passages. She began her practice with scales and arpeggios, getting a feel for the instrument. Then she played portions of her competition pieces, making small adjustments for the acoustics of the hall. "It sounds wonderful," Mrs. Wilson said when she finished. "The hall really carries the sound." As they were preparing to leave, a familiar voice called from the back of the hall. "Lily? Do you have a minute?" Tom's footsteps echoed as he walked down the aisle toward the stage. Lily remained seated at the piano. "I'll wait in the lobby," Mrs. Wilson said quietly, giving Lily's shoulder a squeeze before walking away. When Tom reached the stage, he stood awkwardly for a moment. "Your practice sounded good," he finally said. "Thank you," Lily replied. "Is it your turn next?" "No, I was here at 9. There was another pause. Look, I wanted to talk to you before tonight." Lily waited, her hands resting lightly on the keys. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," Tom continued. "About music being more than just the right notes at the right time. And?" Tom sighed and Lily heard him sit down on the edge of the stage. "My teacher always says I play too mechanically, that I'm all technique and no feeling." He gave a short laugh. "I used to think that was a compliment." "Technique is important," Lily offered. "Yes, but—" Tom seemed to struggle for words. "When you played Beethoven yesterday, it was like hearing it for the first time. And I've played that piece hundreds of times." Lily smiled slightly. "Maybe you were just playing the notes." "Maybe." His voice was quieter now. "How do you do it? How do you make people feel something when you play?" The question surprised her. There was no mockery in it, only genuine curiosity. "I don't know if I can explain it," Lily said slowly. "For me, music has always been about communication. When words fail, music speaks. I try to let the piano say what's in my heart. That sounds hard. Harder than playing Liszt at full speed?" Lily asked with a small smile. Tom actually laughed. "Different kind of hard, I guess." They talked for a few more minutes about music, about the competition, about the pressure they both felt. For the first time, Lily sensed no condescension in Tom's voice. Just the normal conversation of two young musicians sharing an important moment. "Good luck tonight," Tom said as he was leaving. "I mean that." "You too," Lily replied, surprised to discover she meant it as well. The hours before the final round passed in a blur of preparation and nervous anticipation. Lily tried to nap in the afternoon but found herself too wired, replaying passages in her mind, imagining the feel of the keys beneath her fingers. By evening, the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. Lily's parents helped her dress for the performance in a simple but elegant dark red gown her mother had chosen. As they made their way to the music center, the streets were busy with people heading to the same destination. "It looks like the whole city has turned out for this," her father remarked. Backstage was a flurry of activity. Stage managers with clipboards, sound technicians adjusting microphones, the other finalists in various states of preparation. The performance order had been determined by random drawing. Tom would play third, Lily fifth, and last. The grand finale, Mrs. Wilson said, trying to sound encouraging. Lily sat quietly in the green room, listening to the murmur of the audience filtering through the walls as the hall filled. The first performer was already on stage, a young man from Japan playing Debussy. Time seemed to stretch and compress strangely. Before Lily knew it, Tom was being called to the stage. She listened intently to his performance, curious about what he might do differently tonight. He began with the Rachmaninoff concerto arrangement, technically brilliant as always. But as he moved into his second piece, Bach's Prelude in C minor, Lily noticed something new. There was a hesitancy, a thoughtfulness that hadn't been there before. The notes were still perfect, the tempo precise, but something in the interpretation had shifted. It wasn't a dramatic change, but to Lily's sensitive ears it was unmistakable. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause. Then it was the turn of the fourth finalist, and suddenly Lily was being led to the stage, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the microphones would pick it up. The applause that greeted her felt encouraging rather than just polite. As she settled at the piano, adjusting the bench with practiced movements, Lily took a deep breath and let her hands find their home position. For her final round, she had chosen Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, a piece of sublime beauty that required both technical precision and deep emotional expression. As she began to play, the familiar calm descended. The audience, the judges, the competition itself, all faded away until there was only Lily and the music, as it had always been. The nocturne flowed from her fingers with a singing quality that filled the hall. Lily played as if telling a story of darkness and light, of struggle and acceptance, of finding beauty in unexpected places. As the final delicate notes faded away, Lily paused only briefly before beginning her own composition. Tonight she played it with all the emotion of these past few days, the doubt, the determination, the unexpected connections. She poured everything into the music, holding nothing back. The hall remained absolutely silent as the final notes hung in the air. Then, as if released from a spell, the audience erupted. The applause rolled through the space like thunder, growing rather than fading. People were standing. Lily could hear the rustle of movement, the increase in volume. Backstage, after what felt like ages, the 5 finalists gathered to await the judge's decision. Tom found his way to Lily's side. He seemed at a loss for words. "I've never heard anything like that." "Thank you," Lily said softly. "I think you're going to win," he said. And the surprising thing was the lack of bitterness in his voice. Before Lily could respond, they were being called back to the stage. The finalists lined up and the head judge stepped to the microphone. "Music speaks to each of us differently," he began. "Sometimes it impresses us with virtuosic technique. Sometimes it moves us with emotional depth. The rarest performances do both." The hall was completely silent as he opened the envelope. "The winner of this year's Young Musicians International competition is..." Lily held her breath, feeling Tom tense beside her. "Lily Chen." The audience erupted again, even louder than before. Lily stood frozen, unable to believe what she'd heard. Someone gently guided her forward to receive the trophy and shake hands with the judges. Through the chaos of congratulations and applause, Lily felt a hand on her arm. Tom's voice was close to her ear. "You deserve this," he said simply. "You taught me something important, something I needed to learn." As Lily stood center stage, trophy in hand, she realized that the competition had given her something far more valuable than recognition. It had shown her that music truly was a universal language, one that could bridge gaps between people who seemed to have nothing in common, one that could turn rivalry into respect, and one that could help a talented but arrogant young man see the world through new eyes. Sometimes the greatest victories happen not on stages with applause, but in the quiet spaces between two people who finally understand each other.